have a debt to pay. You owe Davy Jones your soul. That was the agreement. Time's up. You're a marked man, Jack Sparrow.
On deck, all hands! Scurry, aboard my stroke!
I was nothing more than an almost innocent bystander.
You won't be able to talk your way out of this one.
Jack Sparrow is a dying breed. Jack must find a place in the new world or perish.
What about Jack? I can't leave without him! Never mind, let's go!
So, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest is the sequel to The Curse of the Black Pearl, which was one of the big surprise hits of a couple of years ago. And obviously the man was very high for the sequel, because not only did this movie become a success, it was a massive success. I mean, this thing made $135 million in its opening weekend, which by today's standards isn't anything too significant. But in 2006... this was the highest opening weekend in the history of Hollywood. It surpassed Shrek 2. It surpassed, obviously, Spider-Man, which I should have said first. But, yeah, having a weekend this big was unprecedented at the time. And it was actually the fastest film ever at that time to gross over $1 billion at the worldwide box office, and essentially became the highest grossing film of the year. Of course, the fan base from the first film was still there, but was it really that good? Let's delve into the plot here. Once again, we plunge into the world of sword fights and savvy pirates. Captain Jack Sparrow, once again played by Johnny Depp, is reminded he's owed a debt to Davy Jones, played by Bill Nighy, who captains the Flying Dutchman, a ghostly ship with a crew from hell. Facing the Locker, Jack must find the heart of Davy Jones, but to save himself, he must get the help of Will Trent and Elizabeth Swann, Orlando Bloom, and Keira Knightley from the first film. If that's not complicated enough, they're sentenced to hang unless Will can get Lord Cutler Beckett Jack's compass. Yeah, Lord Cutler Beckett Jack's compass. Good lord, crazy name there. Will is forced to join another crazy adventure with Jack. And in the movie, I think a lot of the charm and humor that was in the first film is really taken away in exchange for a plot that's getting a little bit more ridiculous and more cliched. But it's got a ridiculously long running time of nearly 2.5 hours. A lack of any real sense of adventure or spectacle compared to the first movie. I mean, there are moments where sometimes the jokes still work overall. Like, I like that scene in the trailer where Will's just like, what about Jack? I can't leave without him. And you see Jack just running away from all these people behind them, and he's just like, never mind, let's go. Like, stuff like that I think is very funny. But it also should be noted that this film was shot back-to-back with At World's End, because The Matrix was doing it at the time. Everyone thought that was going to be the next big thing, and it really didn't become the next big thing until Harry Potter essentially made it work. But, of course it started with Back to the Future back in the 80s, but take note of how this movie looks so bright and more lighter than what comes next, because At World's End just goes ahead and just takes this massive sudden change of tone between the two films. Like, this film is 100% light and happy. The next one, oh boy, it gets really, really dark and grim. Also, I should note that this is actually the first movie with the Disney logo that we had before this new one that came out during the 100th anniversary. Like, Disney replaced the long-time logo that started off their movies with the CG logo created by Weta Digital, and they went on to be used for 16 years until, of course, Disney's 100th anniversary came around. To the movie's credit, there are still things I like about it. The visuals, I think, are still very impressive. Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow can still get a good couple of one-liners here and there. Some of the jokes can still be funny. The action can still look very good. Hans Zimmer's score is overall well done, but I didn't think it quite lived up to par with the first film. There's definitely effort being put in there, but it's obviously a straight-up cash grab sequel to trying to continue the story. not a bad movie, but not a great one either. And I guess I would take this over At World's End easily, but we'll save that for next summer. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, Richard Linklater's A Scanner Darkly.
It may just be my imagination. Whatever it is that's watching, it's not human. What does the scanner see? Into the head? Into the heart? Does it seem to me clearly or darkly?
Damage has taken place to the normally dominant left hemisphere, and the right hemisphere is attempting to compensate.
Two hemispheres of my brain are competing.
I could be murdered.
What if they come in through the bathroom window like that infamous Beatles song?
To sacrifice someone without them ever knowing it.
God damn, that's a long Charles Schwab commercial. I mean, remember back in the day when Charles Schwab had those rotoscoping commercials? It was literally, I think it's the same animation style. I don't know if it's actually the same company that worked on this in Waking Life, but you ever see those commercials? It literally looks like the animation that they're using in this movie. But this is A Scanner Darkly, and this is based off the Philip K. Dick story, and it tells the story of identity and deception in a near-future dystopia constantly under intrusive high-tech police surveillance in the midst of a drug addiction epidemic, which pretty much became our let's be honest, it pretty much became what it is now in general, because, like, a lot of the stuff that's in this movie, honestly, can be pretty much accompanied for what we have today, but like with Waking Life, this uses rotoscoped animation, which is, an animation technique in which animators trace over the original footage frame by frame for use in live-action animated films to give the film a distinctive animated look. And again, Richard Linklater did this 5 years prior to with Waking Life, which that was a good movie overall. But I really like this one a lot. I think it's a very good movie, one of his more underrated films in general. And I think it is because of the animation and how just fluid it looks. And you also have a strong cast that includes Keanu Reeves, Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, Winona Ryder, and just it's a really incredible looking movie. Like, it's a movie where you can just see all the appreciation, the animation that went into this, and it's just like, this is a movie that really doesn't need to be animated, but for what they're trying to get across here, I think the rotoscope animation works very well here in what the technology can do with a story like this. You have people who are literally shape-shifting, and they're not even really doing anything. They're not really doing anything themselves. It's just happening as the movements go on, and it's just as the scene goes on. And it's very, very well done. It's really stylized, really cool how they're able to make it work, and it's a really, really damn good movie. One of Richard Linklater's more underrated films, and just what I like about Linklater most of all, like, he's like Danny Boyle in a way, like David Fincher. Like, he can do all these different types of movies. He just doesn't have to stick himself to one specific genre in general. He can do all these different kinds of movies. Like, this is the same guy that directed School of Rock and Bad News Bears. Would you have guessed that this is the same guy that made those movies? Would you guess what this is the same guy that made the Before Sunrise trilogy? No. I mean, that's the great thing about Richard Linklater, is that he works in so many different areas of genres all across the board that he could pretty much do anything, and it could work very well. And this is definitely one of those prime examples of where it works very well. And I think it's very well done. Definitely one of the more underrated movies of the year that came out, because it did not get the best reviews overall. I mean, it got a lot of positive reviews in general, but it was not a big financial hit either. But it's a movie I really like a lot. I do recommend it, indeed. If you want to see some really great performances from all these actors, it's definitely worth it. Scanner Darkly really is definitely worth a watch.
World's biggest criminal. That's what I'm talking about. Loses the score of a lifetime. Got the gun? I had to ditch it. He'll have to hang out in someone else's crib. Honey! Go cook that cat? The creator of White Chicks. He's adorable in a National Geographic sort of way. He's about to go. Get the gun? Not yet. I'm in timeout. We're no little man. He's gone before. It's a tractor from Mazda. Little Man, rated PG-13. In theaters everywhere July 14th.
Did you ever see the Bugs Bunny cartoon where the little baby where the little mugger looks like a baby goes to find his money, and he finds out that it's inside of Bugs' rabbit hole, and he has to disguise himself as a baby to get it. Imagine that blown up for a movie, even raunchier, and done by the guys who made White Chicks. That's this movie in general. Shawn Wayne stars as a very short jewel thief who hides the proceeds of his latest robbery, then pretends to be a very large baby in order to retrieve it. And I guess on the plus side, it's a better movie than White Chicks, which really isn't saying a whole lot because White Chicks is such a terrible movie. This is just... it's just nothing really all that spectacular in general. I mean, yeah, the whole idea is that, it's Shawn Wayne's as a baby, and, he's got to do the thing like... it's quite literally the Bugs Bunny cartoon, except much raunchier and done with the Wayans brothers instead of Bugs Bunny. I mean, it's literally the same concept in general, except the cartoon is way funnier and much more clever. This, not so much. This is about as silly and ridiculous as it gets, and I guess if you go into... it's kind of like with White Chicks, honestly. Like, if you don't know what you're going into before you walk into the theater, then you really deserve not to like this movie all that much. And yeah, I went into this movie not really expecting a whole lot in general, and yeah, kind of came out of it the same way I felt with White Chicks. I mean, not as much as I hated White Chicks in general, but I just thought this was kind of lazy overall. There was really nothing about it that really makes it stand out on its own. Too much good talent in this movie, too. I mean, you got Kerry Washington in here, John Witherspoon, Tracy Morgan, Chaz Palminteri, Molly Shannon. I mean, a lot of good talent involved in this movie, but just they're not really given anything funny to do in general, and it just really kind of suffers from a lack of really good jokes. I mean, it's nothing but predictable jokes, like, you have to have the scene where they're drinking breast milk, and, there's got to be a scene where, the baby's got to smother up with Kerry Washington, and you got to have the scene where he's got to be, like, all like, offensive and gross and all that type of stuff. Like, that stuff just, it gets really old unless you can really do something funny with it, and they just don't do anything with it in general. At least with this movie, they're at least trying to do something with it, and it's not trying to be just a completely offensive movie like White Chicks is basically felt like. But this movie still, I can't say it's a good movie in general. I mean, it's a movie that, if you look at the poster for it, and you're not already thinking to yourself, well, this is gonna suck. And if you go into it knowing that it's not going to be a good movie in general, you get pretty much what you're expecting to it. If you're expecting more from it, then prepare to be extremely disappointed by it. I mean, it's not a good movie by any means necessary, but at least I could say it's a more tolerable movie than White Chicks is. And I know some people like White Chicks, but I don't know. Like, to me, this didn't really do it for me. And even though it was a success in terms of box office, that almost made about as much as White Chicks did, it was kind of one of the Wayans brothers' last major... it was certainly the last movie Keenan Ivory Wayans directed, I think. Yeah, the last movie he directed in general. And to start your career off with great stuff like Hollywood Shuffle, Eddie Murphy Raw, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and then to just end with White Chicks and Little Man. I mean, that's really depressing, man. But I'll give it this. The Wayans brothers did at least have a little bit of a return to form a couple years later with Dance Flick, which we'll delve into that one once we get to that point, but I thought Dance Flick was pretty good. But like I said, we'll delve to that one as we get to 2009. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at our last film we have here, and that is You, Me, and Dupree.
Everybody has that one friend who never quite grew up. You're gonna come home and you're gonna stay with us. No. Sorry to interrupt. Dupree is making himself right at home. That's not good. Looks like Dupree brought his date home. Molly, wait. What happened in there? It was so natural, so... You, Me, and Dupree.
We might need some matches.
Will you believe this is from the same directors that would eventually give us the Avengers movies and Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Civil War? I mean, times definitely change. I mean, this is still around the time when they're still known for their comedy works, Anthony and Joe Russo. I mean, they had just won the Emmy for Arrested Development, and now, 20 years later, they're one of the top action directors of all time. It radically does not feel like these are the same directors that did the Avengers movies. It's really, really impressive how far we've come since then. But in this movie, you have newlyweds Carl and Molly Preston, played by Matt Dillon and Kate Hudson. After Carl's best man and best friend Randolph Dupree, played by Owen Wilson, loses his job at home, the couple allows him to move in. But Dupree overstays his welcome, and a protective father in Bob Thompson, played by Michael Douglas, begins to dislike his son-in-law Carl and works against him. And the movie itself should be a very simple concept overall, but the fact is that this was Universal's plan to kind of make the next 40-year-old version. I mean, this was supposed to be their next 40-year-old version style comedy hit, and unfortunately, it's not that in any sense. And you can just pretty much tell from the get-go what exactly is wrong with the movie in general. It's the fact that Owen Wilson is supposed to be the odd man in this, the third wheel in this situation, and you know, Owen Wilson's not an obnoxious character in terms of what they're trying to establish here. Like, some people may find his mannerisms in movies to be obnoxious, but they're trying to make him a character on the same level as somebody like a Zach Galifianakis, like in the Hangover movies. That guy that's supposed to be his own thing, that weird guy, but he's also got a heart of gold to him. And they're trying to do it here, but it's just like, yeah, it just doesn't work here per se. And I feel like this movie really suffers because of that initial casting right there. I mean, the movie itself has some brief flashes of some promise there. Some of the acting overall isn't bad. Owen Wilson, I thought, can be good on his own merits, not when he's trying to be the obnoxious best friend in here, but there are times when, yeah, he does have a little bit of charm. He does have that charm to him that works. Matt Dillon and Kate Hudson, they're pretty good in here. Michael Douglas feels like he's kind of the fourth wheel in this situation, where he feels like he's there to just have a pointless role in it, and it just really, his role in here really feels unnecessary, and it's just there to kind of move the plot along here. Also, it doesn't help that you have movies that I've seen many of the sets for being used in this movie, like Global Gym from Dodgeball is used in the third act of the movie, and once you watch Dodgeball and then you watch this movie, it's so hard not to see Global Gym when you're watching the climax of this movie, and it's just like they aren't even trying to hide it, man. Like, it's pretty lazy what they do at the end in terms of set designs and the story in general. It's stuff we've seen done before so many times, done much better on a number of different levels, but this is not a very good movie in general. It's a film that really is a disappointment considering all the talent that's involved in here. And I think the biggest thing that really hurt it from the get-go was the casting of Owen Wilson as the obnoxious best friend who's supposed to be the centerpiece of this situation. Like, any other person, I think, could have really fit that role better. Like I said, a Zach Galifianakis or a Jack Black, or even somebody like a Ben Stiller in a way, like Jonah Hill maybe, but not Owen Wilson. Like, Owen Wilson doesn't fit that role in particular, and I think that really hurts the film in the long run just because of that alone. But, yeah, I went to see this movie back in the day. I liked it at first, and I've rarely watched it since then. It's been almost 20 years since I've watched this movie, and from what I remember from it, it does not hold up well at all, so, yeah. Yeah, you can skip You, Me, and Dupree. Well, that weekend sucked.
First. No detectable movement. What are you weirdos up to? There's something going on at that house.
Get ready.
We're gonna have to go inside. Say what?
For the most incredible, thrilling, mind-blowing,
No more Mountain Dew.
heart-stopping, and hilarious adventure of the summer.
Oh, yeah.
From executive producers Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg, Monster House.
Did I miss anything interesting?
Rated PG, directed by Gil Cannon.
Talk about a movie with a really bizarre concept. You have a 13-year-old kid named DJ who is observing his neighbor Nebuchadnezzar, played by Steve Buscemi, on the other side of the street in the suburb that destroys tricycles of children that trespass on his lawn. When DJ's parents travel on the eve of Halloween and their abusive babysitter comes to stay with them, he calls his clumsy best friend Chowder to play basketball, but when the ball falls into Nebuchadnezzar's lawn, the old man has a heart attack, and soon they find out that the house is a monster. Later, the boys rescue the smart Jenny from the house, and the trio unsuccessfully tries to convince the babysitter, her boyfriend Bones, and two police officers that the haunted house is a monster, and nobody believes them. The teenagers ask their video game addicted acquaintance Skull how to destroy the house, and they discover its secret on the Halloween night. Like I said, stupid concept overall. It's one of those gigantic surprises that came out of nowhere. The plot sounds just as stupid as you would guess. A house that's alive. I mean, yeah, that's not the most incredible concept overall, but that's the power of animation for you. You can take these ridiculous ideas that would sound incredibly stupid in real life and make it work in the world of animation. And sure enough, Monster House makes its stupid premise not only work, but makes sense a lot. This is a really good movie. It does a fantastic job of making a premise as ridiculous as this work as well as it does. The animation overall is pretty impressive. I think it's actually a better performance capturing job than the Polar Express did. And the Polar Express had some good motion capture work for the most part. A lot of the voice actors in here are really good. The kid actors are very good. The all-star supporting cast is really good here. I mean, you got people like Maggie Gyllenhaal, Kevin James, Nick Cannon, Fred Willard, Kathleen Turner, Catherine O'Hara. Just a really, really good cast all around here. Jason Lee, John Heder. The script is really good. It's co-written by of course, Dan Harmon, who gave us Community and Rick and Morty, and Rob Schaub, and they do a great job of creating this well-written story that doesn't fall into the cliches of movies like this. And they even do manage to make this house come off as very threatening. I mean, no joke. The house looks legitimately terrifying in this movie. I'm really surprised they got away with a PG rating because, man, the stuff they do in this movie is incredible. And you can say that this is kind of a precursor to what Leica Animation would do with Coraline a couple years later. I think Coraline did a much better job, but Monster House overall is one of the biggest animation surprises of recent memory. They find a perfect blending of comedy, drama, horror, and action with some pretty spectacular animation and good direction from Gil Kenan, who, up until Ghostbusters at Frozen Empire, didn't really make a really good movie for a long, long time. I mean, there's a lot of promise with this movie as a director, and then just kind of faded off into the sunset. He worked on a couple of movies that were okay, stuff like City of Ember, but then he did Ghostbusters Afterlife, wrote the script for that. Got a chance to direct Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which I thought was a good movie overall, even though it definitely wasn't as good as Afterlife. But yeah, it's been a while since he's directed a really, really good movie in general, and I think this is probably overall his best film easily. I know if you didn't get to see it this past Halloween, definitely give it a chance another Halloween, because it's definitely worth it in the long run. A really good movie. Can't recommend it enough. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water.
There is a creature. It's not in the closet. It's not under the bed. It's in the backyard.
Cleveland, run! What's happening? I thought it was gonna be safe. Something went wrong. I'm sorry, I couldn't protect you.
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Lady in the Water, rated PG-13, starts July 21st.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most pretentious M. Night Shyamalan movie you will ever see. And trust me, that's saying a lot. The film's plot concerns the superintendent of a Philadelphia apartment complex, played by Paul Giamatti, who discovers a young woman in the swimming pool, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. Gradually, he and his neighbors learn that she is a water nymph, or a narf, whose life is in danger from a vicious wolf-like mystical creature called a scrunt, that tries to keep her from returning to her watery blue world. Yeah, this is about as pretentious of a movie as it gets. It was so bad that Disney, who had been supporting M. Night Shyamalan all the way back to Wide Awake in 98, this was originally supposed to be released by Touchstone Pictures, just like his other movies were, but the executives at Disney didn't like the film, they didn't get the movie in general, and Shyamalan got pissed. Like, he thought that Disney no longer valued individualism when Disney was willing to completely fund the film regardless. And, Shyamalan actually rejected the offer and took it over to Warner Brothers, and they thought, the joke's on you, this is going to be a big hit. And now The Village was not a big hit to begin with, and this definitely was not a big hit either. This is about as, like I said, it's about as pretentious and as self-indulgent as you get, right to the point where M. Night Shyamalan himself casts himself in a big role in this movie. And yet Bob Balaban, who's there to just do nothing but be the pretentious critic, and like all these characters are so bland and so boring and so one-note, and the movie just, it doesn't know what it wants to be. Does it want to be taken seriously? Does it want to be seen as over the top? You can't tell it all, and nothing about this movie is magical, nothing about this movie is amazing, nothing about this movie is incredible. There's nothing about this movie that works at all. It's a bleak movie that is so bland, so boring, so much of a waste of your goddamn time. There's nothing of value to it whatsoever, and there's a good cast involved in this movie. You got Jeffrey Wright also in here, Freddie Rodriguez, Jared Harris, a lot of very good talent involved in this movie, but unfortunately, they ain't given anything to do. Like, this movie is so stupid. It's so ridiculous. Like, it has no idea what kind of a movie it wants to be. And quite frankly, it doesn't really care at all. And people were not that stupid this time around. People saw the bullshit and they didn't go see it. It was a big failure at the box office. It made back its budget, but didn't make much afterwards. I mean, it was a film that quickly came and went. And you would think that M. Night Shyamalan would have realized, these last two movies I made have not been successful movies. Maybe I should take a step back and realize that maybe my craft is about to go out the window. But no, not M. Night Shyamalan. No. We still got at least 7 more years of this garbage before he eventually returns to form with The Vision in 2015. Actually, 9 years if you want to be more specific. But yeah, fuck this movie, man. This is a terrible movie. Avoid this one like the plague. So, yeah, with all that said, on to the next movie here. Let's get back to some good stuff again. Here's Kevin Smith with a sequel to the movie that started it all for him. This is Clerks 2.
Never before.
32 and you're flipping burgers? Is anyone else from our graduating class back there?
That's so many. Done so little.
Sometimes I wish I did a little more with my life instead of hanging out in front of places. Maybe be an astronaut. Be the first to find a new alien life form and nail it. What?
And gone so far.
Those taste like flies, don't they?
Ew.
No subject is too sacred.
Those Hobbit movies were boring as hell.
Say what you will about Jesus, but leave the rings out of this.
No insult is too personal.
You can't get a chick, you mook. You're too weird and sad.
I'll turn down chicks left and right.
Your chicks are your left and right.
No dream is too big.
We are gonna peep something we've been talking about since we saw Bachelor Party and we were 12.
I'm disgusted and repulsed, and I can't look away.
Clerks 2.
One ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. Oh, jeez.
A sequel that really did not need to exist, but here it is, Clerks 2. Calamity at Dante and Randall's Quick Stop and the video store sends them looking for new horizons, but they ultimately settle on Mooby's, a fictional fast food restaurant. Fresh from his dead-end job and logged into a new one, Dante begins to break free of his rut, planning to move away with his clingy fiancée, played by Kevin Smith's wife. He's ready to leave the horrors of minimum wage New Jersey behind, but Randall, always the hostile of the two, starts to become overwhelmed by his own rancor. And Jay and Silent Bob are back, of course. You have Rosario Dawson, who plays a third wheel into the storyline. And, of course, you see Jason Lee in there, who I swear when I saw that trailer, I thought he was going to be Earl Hickey, because it really looks like they didn't even... He was on the set of My Name is Earl, and Kevin Smith came up to him and said, Hey, Jason, listen, I'm working on a movie right now. Can you just come on here and for a little bit of a cameo? And Jason Lee's just like, well, what about do I need to put on any new makeup or something? Just like, no, it's fine. Nobody will notice the difference. But no, he's playing a completely different character in this movie, even though he looks literally like Earl Hickey from My Name is Earl. As you can also tell, the movie is not shot in black and white, it's shot in color, and, it was a hit when it came out. I mean, I guess the demand was there for another movie, but then again, most of Kevin Smith's movies aren't really big financial hits in general, but they are movies that do have a soft spot with most people, myself included. I mean, I like a lot of Kevin Smith movies. I mean, really, the worst one he had done up to this point was Mallrats, and even then, that wasn't a bad movie. It was just definitely just a retread of Clerks all over again, and this is sort of a retread of Clerks in general, but... Actually, no, I take that back. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back might be a little bit worse, but even then, that had some moments that were funny in there. But Clerks, this is definitely literally Clerks in this first movie again, except this time it takes place at a fast food restaurant instead of a convenience store. And it's a lot of the same things in this movie, except maybe a little bit more in-depth storylines, like, you find out that Dante gets Rosario Dawson's character pregnant when he's about to get married to this other woman, and Randall's trying to bring back the word porch monkey, and he's just like, hey, hey, I'm gonna bring it back, and he's literally at the point where he's wearing a shirt with it said porch monkey on the back of it, and of course Jay and Silent Bob are still in front of it. I know I cut that scene from the trailer where Jay starts dancing to Buffalo Bill, which actually does lead to a funny reveal in the movie itself, but I don't know, I thought the movie was pretty good. I thought the movie actually did a good job of at least continuing the storyline and having a reason to exist. Like, it's not like these other comedy sequels that were clearly just made because, you know, the first movie was such a big hit that we have to just go ahead and do another movie because the demand is there for a sequel. And no, Kevin Smith actually had a good idea of what he wanted to do with this movie in general. Is it as good as the original? No. Is it a bad movie? No. It's a really fun, enjoyable movie. And if you like a lot of what Kevin Smith brings to the table, you can definitely find a lot of value in this movie in general. I found a lot of enjoyment here. I thought all the characters were a ton of fun. I thought there was a lot of really good funny jokes in this movie. I mean, it's a really good movie. It's a fun film overall. Definitely not the first movie in general, but when you really look at it, all the Clerks movies are actually really good. Like, I really like Clerks 3. I think that's the second best one after the first movie because it actually expanded on the story. Wasn't afraid to go too dramatic, too, and actually work out to the film's advantage. And I thought it was very well done. I thought it was a really good movie, but we've got a long way to go before we get to that movie in general. But as far as Clerks 2 goes, I like it. I think it's a ton of fun. It's definitely not the first movie, but it's certainly one of the better comedy sequels I've seen, no question about it. So with all that said, let us go ahead and move on to our last film we have here, and that is probably the most underrated movie that came out this week, and that is My Super Ex-Girlfriend, starring Luke Wilson and Uma Thurman.
Check that out. Uptight librarian on the outside, ready to rumble on the inside. Not my type, but you should go for it.
Hi, I know I don't really know you, but you look like a very interesting person, so if possibly sometime I might maybe buy you a cup of...
No. Ooh, I must be a little nervous.
That's okay. I got a closet full of them. Let me handle this one.
Let's take care of these. Thank you. Different colored roses mean different things. Red ones mean passion or love. But don't worry, I'm not saying that I think you're telling me that you love me. Maybe someday. Or never. No pressure.
Dude, what's wrong?
My first impression of Jenny was accurate. She seems a little needy, jealous, controlling.
The trifecta. Perfect.
Sounds like a nutcase.
Okay, listen to me. Take her hand in your hand. You say, sweetheart, I think we just need to take a little time off from the relationship to
re-examine where this is going.
Are you breaking up with me?
No!
You are breaking up with me. You are so gonna regret this.
Don't worry about that. They always say that.
Oh, no. This summer, if you thought breaking up was hard...
You rat!
I got your back!
Try breaking up with a superhero.
Don't let go. Where's my car?
You are headed for some serious trouble.
Yeah. I hear you, homegirl. I got it.
What did you just call me?
Uma Thurman.
What do you call 911?
That was close.
Luke Wilson.
Ah!
You gotta laugh to keep from crying, right?
My super ex-girlfriend.
Deep down, I had a feeling that you'd realize your mistake and come back to me. That's why I didn't kill you.
So like I said before, Ivan Reitman's made a lot of really great comedies. Ghostbusters, Stripes, Twins, Kindergarten Cop, and Dave. Then he kind of began that downward spiral with stuff like Junior, then Father's Day, and then Evolution. And then you get this movie where I thought the old Ivan Reitman came back, and I thought it worked a lot better than people made it out to be. In the film, you have a new city of New York, a shy and lonely project manager of a design firm played by Luke Wilson meets Jenny Johnson in the subway. He invites her to a date and has dinner with him, and Jenny immediately falls in love with him. They have sex, and she discovers his true identity. She discloses her true identity to him, that she is the powerful superhero G-Girl. After meeting his co-workers and friend Hannah Lewis, played by Anna Faris, the needy Jenny becomes jealous, controlling, and manipulative, and Matt follows the advice of his best friend, played by Dwight Schrute from The Office, and dumps her, breaking her heart. Jenny turns Matt's life into hell when he has a romance for Hannah. However, the arch-enemy of G-Girl and former high school sweetheart of Jenny, Professor Bedlam, played by Eddie Izzard, proposes Matt to lure Jenny to strip her superpowers. And with this movie, like I said, you start to see the old Ivan Reitman coming back, taking these scripts that have a good plot and a potential for something really funny that shows off more of his talents and making it work. And this movie definitely delivers on that. I thought the plot for this movie worked really well. A great script by the late Don Payne, who wrote a lot of Simpsons stuff. Really great chemistry between Luke Wilson and Uma Thurman. A lot of really good funny setups. A definite indication that Ivan Reitman was putting his directing abilities to good use here, and he had his heart more was more involved in this movie. Not everything about this movie works. There are a couple of jokes in here that don't really meld well together. It seems like something with Reitman and Payne thought would be funny, but ends up not being. That shark scene in the trailer in particular, where Jenny throws the shark at Matt in the room, should have been hilarious, but it just doesn't work. You see it in the trailer, and I think it's that sound effect that just ruins it. A scene that should be funny on the same level of Sam Jackson getting eaten by the shark in Deep Blue Sea. I mean, here, it just comes off as really odd and lackluster. And there's a lot of jokes in here that don't work. Like the whole thing, like that scene, another scene in the trailer with Wanda Sykes in there, and Luke Wilson's just like, I hear you, homegirl. And like, yeah, typical joke there, but they are very few and far between. The overall film that is My Super Ex-Girlfriend is actually really funny and really enjoyable. I had a good time with it. It was actually the first decent Ivan Reitman movie I'd seen in about 12 years. And, he would go back to form a little bit here with stuff like No Strings Attached, Draft Day, and then Just recently, he was involved with Ghostbusters Afterlife, and it's good to see Reitman getting back on his roots in his last few years in this planet before he passed away in 2022. But this is definitely a really good movie that I think a lot of people should definitely give another look at. It's a really fun film. I had a good time with it. I really enjoyed it a lot. So, My Super Ex-Girlfriend, definitely check it out.
Are you afraid of violence? We're here for business. Violence is really expensive. They live their lives undercover. But on July 28th...
Man, that's Jose Euro. These guys kill everything.
Take years to set up a deal like this.
It's not how you get in.
They discovered my guys were undercover.
But how you get out.
You're all mine now.
Fire. From the director of Collateral and Heat. Miami Vice. Rated R. Starts July 28th.
Miami Vice is, of course, based off of the TV series from the 1980s created by Michael Mann, which made stars out of Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas, and was really one of the biggest influential shows of that decade. And it ran for 5 years. It was one of the biggest shows of NBC. Is at peak NBC when they had that. It came out around the same time they had that just incredible '84 season with the Cosby Show becoming the massive hit that it was, and just everything was just coming up. Everything was just coming up big for NBC around that time. And Miami Vice was one of the big hits at that time. Now we have a new modernized version of it starring Colin Farrell as James Crockett and Jamie Foxx as Ricardo Tubbs. And in this movie, they're NDPD detectives who go undercover to fight drug trafficking operations. And this was Michael Mann's follow-up to his big critical hit Collateral a couple of years ago, which is still a fantastic movie. I've talked about that movie several times. And of course, you got Jamie Foxx coming back for this one. And when this came out, it was not the big hit that the studio, I think, was really looking for. It actually didn't get the best reviews overall either, but it has definitely grown in appreciation over the last couple of years. And quite honestly, it's hard not to see why, because of all the TV adaptations you could do with this, why not have the guy that made the original Miami Vice come in and do a new version for a new generation? And here, he makes it work very well. Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx, I think, work off each other very well as Tubbs and Crockett. You got a good cast that includes Naomi Harris, Gong Li, John Ortiz, Kieran Hines, Justin Theroux, Eddie Marsan. Just a really good ensemble cast in this movie. Some comparisons to the Bad Boys series I could definitely see that maybe kind of turn people away, but the movie itself really is a good movie. I was one of those people that really liked it from the get-go, and it took me a long time to get back to seeing it again to see if it actually held up. I watched it again not too long ago, and I'm glad to say that it is indeed not only held up, but it has gotten better over time. I think it is a really good movie. It's definitely one of the more underrated movies that Michael Mann has done. It's a really good movie. Even if you never saw the original Miami Vice TV series, there is a lot to admire from the visual aspect, from the storytelling, the great casting, the cinematography, the music. Just, it's a really great film. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely seek it out. Miami Vice. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is maybe the biggest surprise hit of the weekend, and I should know because I was one of the people that went to see it on this weekend. Yes, I went to go see this movie that we're about to talk about here, and that is, of course, John Tucker Must Die.
This story is about John Tucker. He is the man, captain of the basketball team. He lost it to the homecoming queen and the prom queen at the same time.
You are so sexy when you speak French.
He's got 2 girlfriends. Whoa, scratch that. 3 girlfriends?
Have you ever dated John Tucker?
Hey, he's mine. Stay away from him. I am dating John Tucker. This guy is cheating on all of you, and you're beating each other?
We have something in common.
We all want to kill John Tucker.
What are you girls up to? Destroying a man. All right. Play nice, girl. Your mom is so hot.
If we combine all of us, we can make him fall in love with you, and we'll yank it all out from under him.
Who's your cheerleader?
She's not into high school boys. This is Kate, and she'll be taking Nancy's spot. What? It's just a sprain. Sorry. John loves girls on top of the pyramid. Hello?
I'm obligated to buy you dinner. I'm captain of the team. You're our new cheerleader. You just enjoy the most amazing girl in school. Can I give you a ride home?
Hi. What do I do?
Are you a good kisser?
Hold his gaze. Your lips might just touch, but not yet. And then you give him one light kiss.
Holy drama llama. Kiss her again. Do it.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me?
You should totally wear underwear to school.
Free like me.
I got you a present.
Ooh.
I want you to wear them.
I'll be right there.
Your girlfriend was fun like me.
Dude, those are for ladies.
What? They're breezy, they don't bind, and they give you just enough swing.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was
Unbelievable.
John Tucker
Must die.
All right. Hasta la vista, mother.
Don't you dare give me that look. Of course I went to go see this movie. I'm a 17-year-old boy. You know, you got some of the hottest teen actors at the time. You know, Brittany Snow from American Dreams, Ashanti, Sophia Bush from One Tree Hill, Orion Campbell, who I've seen in a ton of stuff before. You know, the poster is literally the back of a woman's ass in underwear with a shot. He's using her hand as a shotgun. Of course I went to go see this movie. What the hell do you expect from me around that time? But, yeah, I admit that I went to go see this movie. And this is, of course, a story about a plot centering around a trio of teenage girls played by Sophie, as I mentioned, Ashanti, Sophia Bush, and Orion Campbell, who plan to break the heart of school basketball star John Tucker, played by Jesse Metcalfe from Desperate Housewives, after they learn he had been secretly dating all 3 of them and pledging each is the one. They recruit a shy, unpopular girl played by Brittany Snow in their scheme to publicly humiliate him, which Brittany Snow is an unpopular girl. Yeah, clearly, a beautiful woman like that, a beautiful girl in high school like that, is a shy and unpopular person. Like, she would never be popular before these girls came into her life. Yeah, you've got to really accept the level of stupidity that this movie has to offer, because there is a lot of it. And first time I went to see it, I let it go. But then when I watched it again, I could honestly tell you that, yeah, this movie has not aged well at all, and this movie is pretty bad. I mostly I can't said before the reasons why I went to go see it, but honestly, I went to see it because this is directed by Betty Thomas. Betty Thomas has made a lot of movies I've really liked: the Brady Bunch movie, The Late Shift, Private Parts, Dr. Dolittle. I even liked I Spy, but this was kind of towards the end of her run of really good stuff, because after this she would do Alvin and the Chipmunks: The Squeak War, which surprisingly was her best movie overall, but best performing movie at the box office overall, and yet it's probably her worst movie in general. This is right up there, though, second worst, but it just, you know, you can see why the movie doesn't work. It's a movie that's, like I said before, it was made to get a guy like me who would never go see these movies to go see it. It's just like, what, you got to go from American Dreams and sexy lingerie, you know, you've got them doing promiscuous things, you got her kissing the girl from One Tree Hill, you know, like, yeah, of course a prepubescent 17-year-old me is going to go see this movie, just because of that, and I accepted it at first, but yeah, I can admit now as time goes on, this is not a really good movie. It's a pretty lame movie, though, too. Like, it's not funny, it's not clever. The only thing I thought was kind of funny, I will admit, the scene is that scene in the trailer where Jesse Metcalf is still wearing the thong and all that. It's just like, what? It helps me better, but play basketball better, and they show it, like stuff like that. I'll give them credit for that. That was actually pretty good. The rest of the movie, not so much. It's a film that is definitely not aged well over time, and I think a movie like The Other Woman with Cameron Diaz, Kate Upton, and Leslie Mann, which kind of has the same plot overall, I think does this plot a whole lot better. It's much more funnier. Plus, it has a PG-13 rating, so that means it's allowed to go more raunchier than this movie does. This had a PG-13 rating too, but you can clearly tell that this was being made for a teen audience. They didn't want to go too far, and I really think that a movie like this should have gone too far, much further than it has here. I mean, the movie is called John Tucker Must Die, and that's kind of a title should mean we're in for a dark comedy. We should be in something for like Heather. We should be in for something like Heather's, like something on that type of a level. But we don't get that in this movie, unfortunately, and the film suffers because of it. It's just not very funny. You know, I can look at the beautiful looking women all I want to here, but like I said before, visuals don't make the movie, even if it's not just the effects of the visual effects or just what I'm looking at on screen. But yeah, it's a movie that clearly knows exactly what it is. It's a film that is just trying to be that date night movie to play on the opening weekend and then never be remembered after that. It's going to be forgotten quickly afterwards. And I mean, it was a hit, and you do every once in a while see it on TV. Like I have seen it on FX and Freeform as of late. This past year, I think it's been on a couple of times. So it's not one of those movies, kind of like what's another one? Sweet Home Alabama, or some other movies we've talked about that show up on TV all the time, and then really just kind of everyone watches it every once in a while, but then nobody ever really talks about it afterwards. At least that's what I get from it. Because honestly, yeah, I went to go see it. I didn't mind it back then, but I'm not going to say it's a good movie now, because it really is not a good movie. Like, as time has gone on, I've realized that, yeah, this just isn't worth it. So, yeah, I'll pass on John Tucker Must Die easily. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, a film I did not mention in the opening here. The latest film from the director of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, and that is the animated feature, The Ant Bully.
Auditioning for the Ant Bully, the role of terrified ant number 1697.
Run! Run for your lives! The destroyer is coming! I am terrified!
Thank you!
It is Destroyer! Come with me if you want to leave!
Expecto Patronum! Wrong movie.
Run! Run, I say!
Pardon me.
What, yes?
You're not an ant, are you?
I can do ant.
I'm sorry, we need a red ant.
I can do red!
Yo, I'm ant number 1697. I'm here to send the destroyer straight to heaven. You best believe that.
Oh no! The destroyer has come to destroy me because I'm an ant now!
Excuse me, did you just paint yourself red?
No! Yes?
Yeah, listen, the movie is called The Ant Bully.
What about the bully role? I can be real mean. Watch this. You, Daddy Ant.
I'm sorry, the bully role has been cast already.
Oh.
Yeah.
To who? You're just a little kid. Aren't you the cutest thing? Oh, my goodness. I'm okay! Cut!
And that's why this movie bombed at the box office, because, I mean, just look at that teaser trailer. That's the teaser trailer. That was the trailer that was supposed to get everybody hyped up for the movie, and all I got from it was, wow, this movie is trying way too hard to find a demographic to go for. But this is The Ant Bully, based off of a children's book that I never heard of before the movie came out. And you have a story that's set in suburban Las Vegas, where you follow a young kid who's played actually by the voice of Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, who is neglected by his family and bullied by him and his friends, by this kid and his friends. And he attacks the nearby ant colony out of frustration. But a wizard ant, played by Nicolas Cage, creates a potion to shrink the kid, And after being shrunken down, he has to join forces with these new friends, including characters played by Julia Roberts, Regina King, Bruce Campbell, to defeat this exterminator who the kid called, who threatens their colony upon signing the contract. And did I say he was voiced by Paul Giamatti? I thought I did, but then I didn't. But he's voiced by Paul Giamatti, and you also have Lily Tomlin in here as well. The movie just really is. It's weird. Like it's complicated. I'll say that. I mean, it's a movie that isn't bad per se, but it's definitely all over the place. Like it's weird because the director of this movie and the director of the movie that comes out the next week also worked on the same movie together 5 years ago with Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. And I don't know if there was like a feud going on between the two. One person went to one studio and one to the other. But it's weird that they have two movies coming on the same weekend. But the one we'll talk about next time is the better film, obviously. But this just feels like a film that is just has some ideas to it that could be fun, but it can't decide on what direction it wants to take itself or what kind of a story it really wants to tell. It just wants to show off these big stars that they have. I mean, you got Julia Roberts, you got Nicolas Cage, Meryl Streep is in the movie too. I forgot to mention that. But you've got all these big names in here: Paul Giamatti, Bruce Campbell, Lily Tomlin, Regina King, all these big names in here. But they really don't have a whole lot to do in general. They're just really showing off just the fact that they got these big stars, and that's about it. I mean, there's nothing really engaging about the story in general. There's no real good life lessons that being learned in this. Like, the jokes really aren't all that funny either. The animation can sometimes look pretty good, but sometimes can look pretty silly at a number of different times. And it doesn't help that this film also had a huge thing where everybody was pretty much laid off who was making this movie. No joke, the company DNA Productions, who also did the Jimmy Neutron TV series, they essentially were laid off while this movie was getting made. In fact, if I remember correctly, the Jimmy Neutron TV series, I think, had just ended when this movie was coming out, so that makes a whole lot of sense. But, yeah, this is the movie that is just... It's a weird movie to talk about, because, honestly, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. It just feels like a film that at times has potential to be worth something, but then other times it's just kind of like it really is lost in what they're trying to accomplish here. It just feels like a film that has so many different ideas that they wanted to work with here, and it really doesn't have anything in particular that really makes me say it's something you should check out. It just feels like a film that kind of came out of nowhere, and with all the talent that they had in here, this movie should not be coming out of nowhere at all, but nothing really is happening in here to make me say that this is something you should check out. It's just it's a lazy film. It's a film that doesn't have anything of value to it. Sometimes it can have a good moment here and there, but it's not enough for me to say that this is something you should check out, unfortunately. So, a hard skip on the Ant Bully. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Woody Allen's follow-up to his critically acclaimed Match Point. That is Scoop.
My next trick, I'm going to need a volunteer. Is it your first time on stage?
Yes.
You're an incredible human being and a credit to your race.
Last night, when you put me inside that Chinese bomb.
Yeah, the dematerializer.
A spirit materialized.
I'm a reporter, and I have the scoop of the decade. It's got everything. Big names, murder. Write this down. Peter Lyman, son of Lord Lyman, is the tarot card serial killer. This will be the biggest story to hit London since Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper. Is that capitalized?
You're in over your head.
I'm a journalist sitting on top of the biggest stories of all time.
Yeah, for a college paper.
That's him. Let's follow him.
You know, I think you could probably get this guy to get interested in you. Particularly if he's got a twisted mind.
I'm Peter Lyman.
Jade Spence.
My father's giving a garden party at the estate. I'd love you to come.
This guy's a serial killer. He could just kill at any moment.
I've heard that part. That's when I knew I was going to make other plans.
Let's be honest, this movie only has one reason for its notoriety: Scarlett Johansson in that red bikini. I mean, Jesus. But this is Scoop, the follow-up to Woody Allen's Match Point, which also stars Scarlett Johansson. And in this movie, she plays an American journalist who joins up with a magician played by Allen, being guided by the spirit of a reporter played by Ian McShane to investigate a British aristocrat played by Hugh Jackman, who might be a serial killer. And I talked about this movie recently in a blog post, and I'll just kind of say what I had to say with that one. This movie isn't. This movie isn't bad, but it isn't good either. Kind of like with the Ant Bully, it's just. it's just okay. It's a film that I think helps because you have a really good cast that can really push this to another level. But as far as the script goes, as far as the mystery goes and the comedy, it's pretty lackluster overall. There just isn't that spark in there that Woody Allen had in his couple movies before this that made it kind of work. And I think it's one of those rare blemishes of a pretty solid latter half of the decade that Woody Allen would have in particular, because he'd have this, and then he'd follow it up with later on with Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and then he'd do Whatever Works, and then follow it up with a couple movies later with his magnum opus, in my opinion, Midnight in Paris. But this is definitely one of those movies where it's not good, it's not bad, but you kind of expected a whole lot more considering who was involved with the film. And I really was disappointed by this particular movie. So, overall, not a bad movie, but definitely could have been a whole lot better. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get to easily the best movie of the week, in my opinion, and that is Little Miss Sunshine.
The Magic on the Machine. On July 26th, one comedy event
Little Miss Sunshine? Little Miss Sunshine?
is causing mass hysteria. Don't miss the film Roger Ebert calls the funniest laugh-out-loud audience pleaser from the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, jeez, I'm being pulled over. Everybody just pretend to be normal.
Little Miss Sunshine, rated R. Don't even think about missing this one.
Oh, I most certainly did not miss this one. When it came into my theater finally, I was there opening weekend. I just had to see this movie, and I'm glad I did, because what more can you say about this movie that hasn't already been said? Little Miss Sunshine. It stars an ensemble cast who play members of a dysfunctional family who take their youngest, played by Abigail Breslin, who's of course the sister of Spencer Breslin, to compete in a child beauty pageant. And the trials and tribulations that happen over the course of this trip. A lot happens in this movie, and really, I friggin' love this movie, man. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a great indie comedy that's not afraid to go dark when it needs to, and it goes dark, man. Like, at times, there are times when, it's not afraid to take it to another level, and it just works on a number of levels. There's a lot of great performances all around, a lot of heart to it. It was really one of the first real independent movies that I went out of my way to go check out in a theater, and I'm glad I did, because, like I said, it's just such a great movie. The cast is great. You got Greg Kinnear, Toni Collette giving these great, strong performances, Abigail Breslin making a great leading film debut. The real highlights of the movie are Paul Dano, who doesn't say a lot in this movie, but he gives such a great persona to this character he plays, and you can't take your eyes off of him when he has to speak finally in the movie, because he's got this storyline in here where, he has to, where he's not talking for a specific reason, and there's a point where, they realize that, he wants this job so badly, and one person has to tell him that, because you have this little specific thing in your specific thing, you can't be this thing. And then when it finally happens, he has to act now. He actually does give it a lot of elements, an element to it that really makes you feel bad for him and really get behind him whenever he has to do a thing, something that happens critically in the last big thing that happens in the movie. Of course, you got another great element in Steve Carell, who this was really his first major dramatic role that he was in, that I saw him in after many years of seeing him as a comedic actor. And, this was years before he finally got a nomination for Foxcatcher. The dude showed he had a potential to be a great dramatic actor right from the beginning here. And I think he's shown time and time again how great of a comedic actor and a dramatic actor he can really be. And the last big highlight of the film, man, Alan Arkin, who famously won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor over Eddie Murphy. And as much as I would have loved to see Eddie Murphy win it for Dreamgirls, I'm sorry, man. I loved Alan Arkin in this movie. He's great as the grandfather. He's great in this film. He definitely deserved to win the Oscar, and it was just a really solid performance that was perfectly solidifying what made Alan Arkin's career great as a whole, because he was also a great comedic actor back in the day before he eventually evolved into the dramatic actor that he eventually became. And like I said, he gives it 110% performance in this movie that just plays so very well in this film. And I love the movie builds up to provide a lot of great social commentary on the concept of kiddie beauty patches. This was done years before we get these controversies about what's going on at these kids' beauty patches. They did this years before those, and the ending of this movie the way that they come to this conclusion when they realize how messed up these pageants are is just so pitch perfect. It is one of the most satisfying conclusions for a movie that I have ever seen in my life. And it's a shame that these two directors have not really done much since then. They've done a couple movies I really like too, like Ruby Sparks. They did Battle of the Sexes, with which also stars Steve Carell and also Emma Stone, which I thought was really great. But this is easily their best movie. Little Miss Sunshine is one of the quirkiest, funniest, most heartwarming comedies of recent memory, and you are definitely doing yourself a major, major disservice if you don't check this movie out. It is more than worth it. One of the best movies of the year, easily, Little Miss Sunshine.